Dungeons and Dragons railroads you. So that's why I don't like Dungeons and Dragons anymore. So I'm just dogging Dungeons and Dragons. I want to free you from Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing for 40 plus years. So I know what's a fun role-playing game. And Dungeons and Dragons 5e is not fun anymore. I'm just trying to expose you to this ridiculousness. And I've been blinded by the light as well. Here's how I have this perspective on it that came to me from Warhammer 40K. I had a hiatus from role-playing games for about 10 years, and I was playing Warhammer 40K. And I had 100,000 points of Imperial Guard. I had Space Orcs. I had 6,000 points of Space Orcs, Space Marines, Eldar. And Tyranids. I was crazy. I obsessed over it. I obsessed over the books, so the strategies, blah, blah, blah. But over that 10-year period, I saw, and I eBayed everything away at the end. But over that 10-year period, I saw it go from fun armies and silly troops and cool storytelling, in the trenches of like World War I sci-fi, battling it out, all these troops and units. They started changing it into superheroes. They started making all these freaking units with all these paragraphs of special abilities and spells. And, like the kids would do all these things on my troops and I'd be like, can I look at your codex and read what that ability is? And it'd be like 3 paragraphs. And I'd be like, hey dude, so, when you put those templates down, you gotta they all gotta be connected based on the second paragraph here. You can't just put them on, on the different troops, units, you know what I mean? So or whatever it was. And it was always, I never had an issue. They're like, oh, I didn't understand, but it was the game. It got complicated and ridiculous and all these little things. And it just got so superhero-y, as opposed to just a fun, brutal, grunge, crunch, whatever, war thing. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And they kept changing the names of things because they wanted copyright, control over it, as opposed to using fun tropes like orc, like just a space orc. They had to change it to something else. I forgot what it was, or whatever. Like the space elves, whatever it was. They kept changing, especially in Warhammer Fantasy. Man, they went from regular fantasy to all this weirdy stuff, and so it just got lame. Anyway, as I'm playing D&D, I'm starting to see that now with the 5e, that everything's becoming superhero-y, everything's becoming kind of ridiculous. You're being railroaded, not by the GM, but by this. And of course, all the other additions. And let's just go through. I'm going to just thumb through. Okay, sorcerer. So sorcerer, you're being told sorcerer, but you're given a chart that you have to follow as a player, right? You're given that chart of this is when you get your spells. This is when you get ability score improved. This is when you get a meta magic. This is when you get your font of magic. This is when you get you got a couple of choices in there, and and then you got to read these pages, and you got to have this book out. And you're just following it, and as you go up a level, I get this now. I get this now. What? You need to. That's not how life works, and then that's not how fun works either. You're being railroaded as a character, and it's getting. And I've just noticed it in my last campaigns how railroaded we all were. The characters were, the DM is, and how the characters all had. And then when they went up a level, they were all looking at what they get next. What they get next. That's a railroad. Because it's not in the game. You're not experiencing something to then improve your character. You're not going through a challenge or a story to then improve that character because of how you play the character. You're being railroaded into a way of playing that character, and you're like in that Plato's cave where you just see that shadow, and you don't know that there's a whole world of other stuff out there that you could do because you can't. You're not allowed to. And then the players get into that min-max thing with all of it, and they start like fumbling with the numbers. Anyway, I'm selling For the Lord RPG to you because it's a Christian game, so I guess you got to be Christian. But For the Lord RPG, you don't get railroaded by your character class. Your character class is where you start, but then you have no skill list, so you pick any skills you want as you progress in the game, as you play the game, as you start to see what you like to do, you choose skills. And there's not a constant, like in this, you get, you can, with an attack, you can get like plus 10 at some really early on with the magic item, with the proficiency and with your ability score, you get a plus 10 or 11. And so you're always going to be hitting kobolds and goblins or whatever so easily. In my game, there is one constant, which is your trait, which is an ability score. And that's like same as D&D. It sort of relates, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5 is really high, plus 6, whoa, you're getting really high there. But plus 4 is like a good number to have. But then you get die ranks, which is D4, D6, D8, D10. You kind of go that way with your skills and progression. So, thusly, you're not always going to get in a plus 11 for every roll. You know, there's going to be a range there, and you want to, you're going to look for ways to improve it, but you're also going to look for ways to avoid having to do combat. You're going to have, and you get to pick skills as you progress, as you're playing, as you're experiencing your character, as you're experiencing the environment. And I let you go any direction you want. You are not stuck in this railroad. Okay? Most OSRs or most role-playing games are railroad you without, no one talks about this, but you're railroaded. If you have a character class and you have 2 or 3 sheets or 1 page of your progression, that's a railroad. That's a real railroad because no one's telling you to do that but a piece of paper, a couple of pages there. And that's the real railroad you guys don't seem to be noticing, in your Plato's cave. As you're looking at your shadows and enjoying that world when the real world is out there. And so that's what my Christian for the Little RPG is, a quick little video about how it's so much freedom in that game. I love it. That's why I'm pushing it, and I'm a Christian, so I'm stuck on that. I'm not going to compromise. You play an actual like medieval type fantasy comes from our Christian struggles with paganism in the old white man's Europe. That's where it comes from. And we are erasing that history. We're erasing the Christian part of it. And the paganism is taking over and then going crazy with it. But I want to return to this joy and wonder of our true fantasy, which is that medieval and mythical and cultural history of Europe, which is, I think, pretty awesome. And we're just forgetting it. So that's my little bit here. If you're playing D&D, you love D&D 5, you're choosing the railroad already, based on these characters and doing the character class. Not even the GM, just the railroad of this. And then when they get into 3 attacks and 4 attacks and a reaction attack and a bonus action attack, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. Anyway, in the game of life, maybe you should come over to the For the Lord RPG and play and roll holy dice.